Have you heard about Anchor? If you haven't, I'm here to tell you it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free, and I mean free. I haven't paid a dime to produce or distribute my podcasts. There's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. How easy is that? Podcast distribution can be a headache, but not with Anchor. Anchor distributes your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many, many more. As a bonus and not an obligation, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Anchor has everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Welcome to Real Ghost Chatter. I'm Marianne Paul, America's Lady of Supernatural Thrillers. Today, our guest is Gordon Parker. Gordon was born in Louisiana and moved to Alaska when he was 12. He calls Anchorage his hometown, but remains very close to Louisiana. His first career was in broadcast journalism. From there, he moved into politics, working as a lobbyist on behalf of small, rural telecommunications companies in both Juneau and Washington, D.C. He also served as chief staff officer for a major trade association and even owned a movie theater in Nome, Alaska. Gordon's first novel, The Empty Mint Mystery, is set in Louisiana. The second, Neighbors and Other Strangers, swerves through San Francisco. The third, A Shooting at Auk Bay, brings his main characters to Alaska. Future novels will see them sharing their time between homes in New Orleans and Anchorage. You can find Gordon's books at authormasterminds.com/Gordon-Parker. So Gordon, I understand you've had at least one ghostly encounter.
Well, good morning, Marianne.
And good morning.
Yes, I did. I do have a story to tell, and I'm still somewhat mystified by it all. And I have to confess that prior to this event, which occurred sometime between 95 and the year 2000, somewhere in the late 90s, I was always a cynic. Mm-hmm. And people who express belief in ghosts and spirits and some otherworldly things, I just thought, nah, I think they're wrong or whatever.
Right.
And then I had this experience, and I'm telling you, it changed my mind.
You seem to do that for people.
My ex-father-in-law, my father-in-law at the time, died. He was sort of a grouchy old guy, and we didn't really much like each other. But that's all right. I went back to Louisiana with my then wife, and of course we paid him honors and went through the service and the burial. And we were staying at his house, which was a ramshackle old farmhouse, and there was one heck of a storm broke out that night. I mean, rained hard, thunder, lightning like you never saw before. And I remember thinking to myself, yeah, they're welcoming that old man someplace. But anyway, 3-4 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and I had to obey a call of nature. So I went down the hall, and when I came out of the bathroom, the bathroom entered into a short hallway. And to my right, at the end of that short hallway, there was a sort of a utility room, I guess. I think it had been at one time his wife's sewing room, and I don't know what all they used it for, but just, one of those rooms that old houses had. Mm-hmm. And just as I stepped out the door, there was a tremendous flash of lightning. It lit up the entire house. And I looked to my right, and there was that old man.
God, you sure you weren't in a horror movie, right?
That's kind of, I didn't know what to think, but I mean, it was him. It was him.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm not hysterical. I believe what I see.
Right.
And there he was. And frankly, he looked about as surprised to see me as I was to see him, and probably no happier. Uh, but there he was.
Mm-hmm.
And then the lightning was over, and he disappeared.
Wow.
And I thought, oh man, what's wrong with me?
Mm-hmm.
I just saw my reflection in the full-length mirror in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went back to bed and didn't give it another thought. Next morning, got up, and there was several members of the family had come in for the services, and I was sitting around having coffee with people, and something reminded me of that, and I said, y'all not going to believe this. And I told them the story, and I said, and then I realized that it was just my reflection in the full-length mirror. And they all sort of got quiet and looked at each other, and finally one of them said, Gordon, there is not a full-length mirror in that room. And I thought, he's wrong, it's got to be wrong. I went back, and sure enough, there was no mirror. So what I clearly saw was that old man.
Wow.
And that changed my thinking. I still am not clear. I don't understand these sorts of things. But now the difference now is I understand that I don't understand.
This is the truth. I don't think anyone understands these experiences at all.
Yeah.
But it's a matter of knowing. I mean, look at your career. This is what I look at, your career and all the logical moves you made in your career, except maybe the movie theater. No, I'm kidding.
That was a fun one. That was really a fun
That
one.
would have been the fun one. Nome, Alaska. Anyway, we won't go there, right? But when I look at your background, and it's not like you're a hysterical person. You're more of a logical person. And when you saw something, I can understand why you would, I would imagine your first reaction was exactly that. What's wrong with me?
It was amazing. Just totally amazing.
It really is. And it's really fun, to look back on, not to be in the middle of.
Yeah, I don't want to go through it again. But, I mean, clearly there was something there that I cannot explain, but I saw it.
Right. I understand that.
And, and as you say, I'm not a hysterical person. I'm a fairly logical person. I believe what my eyes show me.
Right. Right.
And that's what
I do
they
too.
showed me.
I've had that kind of experience, but not with seeing. But my mom, when she passed away, I was really worried about her. This was like in 1985, and I was very worried about her. So literally, I remember walking into a bathroom or something and saying out loud something like, if you're okay, Mom, would you let me know? Well, I didn't think anything of it. We all think that when we're grieving, I think. Mm-hmm. And next thing I know, my brother-in-law starts singing Camp Down Ladies. You know that song, Camp Down Ladies?
Yeah.
Doo-dah, doo-dah. That was one of my mother's favorite songs. And I knew right then and there that she was fine. It's like, that was the weirdest experience. And he is a logical person too. And why in the middle of grieving, he would come out with that song. Nobody could understand.
I had forgotten about this, and I don't know if this even makes sense or not, but I lost my two best friends a couple of years ago, one of whom was this wonderful little black and white puppy who was my constant companion.
I remembered her pictures. She, right? Oh, she's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, and such a sweet baby girl.
Mm-hmm.
And then my guy has probably been my closest friend. We met when we were 10 years old.
Mm.
He had passed away just a few weeks before that. And so when Molly left us, And my friend had a unique way with words and the way he talked.
Mm-hmm.
I'd recognize his voice and his phrasing anywhere. And so I was feeling pretty down when I lost Molly.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember thinking, well, he was called RJ, but I always called him by his first name, R. Said, well, R, I'm sending you a sweet little girl today. Hope you take care of her. Just like that, not really meaning anything about it. And out of the blue, I hear his voice saying, oh, I will.
Aw, isn't that just amazing? And then you jump about 40 feet. How did you react to that one?
Well, I just kind of was real quiet for a while, but it was the way that's the way he would answer the question without doubt.
Mm-hmm.
And so every time I think about my Molly, I think R is taken care of.
And that is such a wonderful little story. I love it. I've had those experiences, and those are kind of shocking to me when I hear something as opposed to anything else. And I don't do that it doesn't happen to me very often. And it's only happened like in my sleep usually, So then you jump about 40 feet thinking somebody's calling your name. And it's like it's like your dad going, Marianne. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm up. What's going on? So, but those are both wonderful little stories. And I guess my question would be, before we end, is what advice would you give a person who has a supernatural encounter, who is like you and a skeptic, right? Or was?
I would just say, open your mind.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, you don't have to understand it.
That's right.
And I still don't understand it, but I tell you what, I'm not cynical about it anymore. And, you hear people tell stories all the time, and some of them are just bull.
Right.
But I got an open mind now. Who knows?
Well, I have a hard time. I think you can tell the difference between somebody who's, present and who isn't in terms of a person telling their story. But it's such a new field, and for people to finally start opening up about that, it makes us all feel a little crazy when we tell our stories, because it is uncomfortable for me to even tell my stories. But I know what has happened in my life, and thank God it's not every day. You know what I mean? So, because
there you go. And if it was every day, I'd start to get a little bit nervous.
Well, then I'd be talking to a psychiatrist myself at that point, just to check I would be just check in with somebody who knows. So,
I lock my door when I go to bed at night, but I'm not sure that you can lock your door about things.
No, you can't on that kind of stuff. Yeah. I don't, they just come right on in.
But one of my biggest memories of that night was the look on the old man's face, and he clearly was just absolutely as unhappy to see me as I was to see him. And that's kind of the way it was anytime we met before he passed away.
Oh, that's funny. Did he pass away quickly?
He did. He hadn't, wasn't a long illness or anything. Yeah, he was quite elderly.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't really recall how old he was, 90, but he was well into his 80s. So, it happened very quickly, very suddenly.
Well, maybe he was just really shocked at all.
Maybe he was just so
or maybe he was like
surprised to be there.
Maybe he was like looking at you like, oh gosh, where did I go? Where am I?
Yeah.
Is this heaven?
Maybe he thought I was a ghost.
Right? That could be. That's really an interesting thought. That could be. It was a great story, though. I love it, especially the look on his face. That is so funny. That you could see him that clearly is really amazing.
Absolutely.
Most people do not see him that clearly.
He always wore, he was an old farmer, raised horses, and his place had a lot of acreage. His old house lived out in the country. It was placed out in the country, and he always wore, when he was out on the farm, he always wore overalls and he had on those overalls and like a work shirt like he always wore when he was on the farm. And
Wow.
so anyway,
That's amazing. I really think that's fun, and thank you so much for sharing
I
it with
certainly
us.
have enjoyed being here with you.
Well, I've enjoyed being with you too, and I am blessed to know you anyway off of our interview here. So that's really, I know that what you're telling me is true, but I know you, so it's like
I know, and we do have a lot of fun, don't we?
we do, we really do, and I feel really just amazed when I find these things out that you had this kind of a story, and I guess go ahead.
I'm not sure I've ever even told anybody that story before.
Well, you have now.
I might, yeah. Now I've told a lot of people.
Yeah, you have.
I don't, maybe I did. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I did because I had to because we were there with my ex-wife's family. So
right, you told them that. Right, told them what happened. Maybe the only time you shared it, right? Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, it was thank you for sharing it with us.
My
and I guess
pleasure.
I'm going to go with this concludes today's podcast, and I have many thanks to you for sharing this adventure, as I've said, Gordon. If you've enjoyed this podcast, I encourage you to share it with others you think would be interested in it. And again, I'm going to mention Gordon's website for his books, which is authormasterminds.com/Gordon, GORDON -Parker, PARKER.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And if you people enjoyed this podcast, I encourage you, as I said, to share it. If you'd like to know more about me, go to maryannpaul.com and/or authormasterminds.com/MARY-ANN-POLL. Until next time, may the wind always be at your back, the sun on your face, and the good Lord walk beside you. Thank you.